focused on how we form relationships on social media and the use of social influence as well as conformity. Social influence is the ways in which we change our behavior to meet the environment around us. An example might be joining social media even though we may not want to, but we know that everyone else is doing it, so we kind of cave into doing it. Conformity is the act of matching attitude, beliefs, and behaviors to group norms. An example might be agreeing with an opinion in a group of people that we might not actually believe in, but everyone else has already agreed on that opinion, so we follow their lead. Social media includes apps such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and recently also includes dating apps such as Hinge, Tinder, and Plenty of Fish. Our first study is focused on social, emotional, and cognitive reasons of social influences. In this study, we find that differences found between collectivist versus individualistic orientations moderate the effect of social identity and emotions in the virtual community. So this would mean that it affects our social identity and emotions while we use social media and dating apps. What this alludes to is that the differences found in individual characteristics and collective ones have a serious effect on our social identity and emotions in relation to social media and the virtual communities that we are a part of. This brings us to the next topic of conformity, and asking, is not conformity weird? This study was important because the main point of this project is to understand how conformity has integrated into our social influence. In the second study by Clegg, we examined variation and how much adults from different cultural and socio-economic backgrounds consider behavioral conformity when evaluating children's intelligence and behavior. This was important to view because even though we might not think of children when we think of social media, it is important to understand where our ability to use conformity comes from. The results of this study demonstrate cultural variation in beliefs about the relationships between competency, creativity, and conformity. The present study provides the first experimental evidence for cultural variation in impact of children's conformity on adults' judgment of intelligence. This alludes to the fact that we can learn our abilities to conform when we are children, which can affect us as we get older and make decisions on social media. We all use a form of conformity. So if it is weird or not to use conformity is an individual approach. Social influence and younger adults was more of a topic that I wanted to touch on because the millennial population was one that I was focused on for this project. For this example, we learned that adolescents like to risk their risk images, willingness to use, and intentions to use. Social media, our new way of interacting. We learned that adolescents, in turn, are risk takers. And it is also a big time for increased social media use. Really think back to the first time you got a social media account. I can remember mine was MySpace, and I was no older than 11 years old when I opened my first account. I even had to use a fake birth year because I wasn't quote unquote old enough to have the account. But every single one of my friends had a MySpace. So it was something that, even though I wasn't technically old enough to use, everyone in my age group was already using it. This ties together the fact that we need to understand the minds of adolescents before we hand them over to social media in all its facets. Digital dating and romance. The relationships being negotiated through today's social media are forcing us to rethink the nature of intimacy, personal connections, and wider uses of relatedness. This was an important study because it introduces our big problem area, social media. The emergence of new technology for connecting people has led to key changes in informal rules and norms in relation to our social interaction. Digital dating is another topic that is added to our social media interactions. Not only are we creating friendships and bonds on social media platforms, but we are also roped into dating on social media platforms as well. This study by Chambers also mentions the options to add relationship status to our Facebook profiles. We are flooded with the options of labeling our status with in a relationship, single, and even things such as complicated. These pressures might allow us to deter from our original thoughts and feel as though we need to conform to the ways and wishes of others in the online world. The effects of relationships on customers was an interesting find and important because my whole project was about relationships in general and not only focused on love relationships or friendship relationships. How online resources affect a company's relationship with their customers is something that is important to know. Social media affects so much, and we might not even know it. A sense of feeling connected with the brand further led to increased feelings of self-brand connection and enhanced customer brand use intentions. This is great information for a company to know because if they are better connected to their customers online, their customers will in turn feel more connected to a brand. This made me think about some companies that I purchase things from and how if they offer things such as customer chat or a follow-up email, I'm more likely to go back and purchase from them again. Liquid love was a fascinating topic that I found while researching for this project. Mobile dating apps are particularly important to modern dating and even sexual activity. They offer experiences that are distinct from those provided by dating websites. As I mentioned before, some common apps that are being used for dating are Tinder, Hinge, Bumble, and if you've ever noticed, there's more and more popping up every day. I see lots of new commercials for different types of dating apps, and they really are aimed at the younger person who is looking to find love. And even though it might not be completely focused on love when you're on the app, that's kind of how they try to get you into the app. A digital revolution is underway in terms of dating, courtship, and modern romance. Single adults today have a seemingly endless variety of potential romantic and sexual partners available through social networks and apps that are on their smartphones. Who uses dating apps? The internet has become a powerful social intermediary. It has particularly displaced the role of traditional matchmakers such as family, friends, and coworkers. It has come to a point where you hear of more stories of love or relationships found online than you do about people just meeting organically. I remember when I was younger, around 14 or 15, if someone said that they met somebody online, it was weird. It was something that no one really believed was a thing that could happen. But today, you find more and more couples that have started their relationships online, whether it is a DM on social media, such as Instagram or Facebook, or a dating app such as Tinder. Another shocking find by Chan was that people's attitude predicted the intent to seek romance via dating apps, and the use of these apps were normal and predicted the intent to seek sex more than relationships. So the use of apps is more based on finding sexual partners. The illusion of intimacy deals a lot with the social facade that is found on these social media profiles and dating apps. Often, we are shown a picture and a witty bio, and that is all we know about the person staring at us on the screen. But we feel as though it is enough for our attraction. This made me think about our photos on Blackboard. And all we must really know anything about our classmates has to do with these photos. We stare at these pictures when we're responding to somebody, but what else do we know about them? Emotions on the internet. Computers have changed not just the way we work, but the way we love. Falling in and out of love, flirting, cheating, even having sex online have become part of the modern way of living and loving. Emotions are associated with closeness and openness, but this seems not to be contradicted with all of the love and sex we try to find on the internet. We know very little about these new types of relationships and why we are so inclined to find love and friendships on the web. How is an online affair where the two people involved may never see or meet each other different from an affair in the real world? Is online sex still cheating on your partner? Why do we tell complete strangers our most intimate secrets? What are the rules of engagement? These are just some questions that might come up when thinking about online relationships. Finding love or sex on the internet is not something that is wrong, because to each their own. The issue is the way we connect, and that is how we believe people are who they say they are. We fall in love or into attraction with someone's bio or their pictures. It was integral to me to include the dangers that our lack social media presence might include. For example, we learn about Amy, who suffered a sexual assault from Paul after she met him on a dating app. She met him on the app Plenty of Fish. This encounter of sexual assault shows us the dangers of all that can happen in meeting someone online, and how even though we are influenced to date and meet people online, we need to be very cautious. It is common for women on dating apps to receive unsolicited sexual advances from male users. A 2016 consumers research study found that 57% of female respondents, compared to only 21% of males, reported feeling harassed on the dating apps they used. This made me think about many times where I've received DMs from men on social media, such as Instagram, and they were very provocative and seemed to be completely out of the blue, and things like that should not be something that people are comfortable sending to somebody that they don't know, and it is a big sign of disrespect in my mind. This brings me to these two images that I found. Most users can brush off an offensive message or two, but faced with relentless or vindictive advances, the impact can be severe. One user says the crude comments she received on dating apps from strangers and from people she knows in real life made her feel worthless. So really think about this. Imagine posting a picture because you think you look cute, and somebody liking it. That's great. But then to receive messages or comments on this photo that are of a sexual nature or that make you feel like you're being looked at in a way that is uncomfortable, no one has the right to have anybody feel that way. And this is really something that needs to be addressed more on social media. Sending someone a message saying, listen, you look great in that photo, is actually really nice. But doing it in a way that's vindictive and making the person feel uncomfortable, it needs to be stopped. Online communication applications such as Facebook, WhatsApp, and Twitter are some of the most frequently used internet applications. A higher level of social loneliness and less perceived social support enhance the risk of a pathological use of social media. This affects a person's pathological symptoms, which might be depression and social anxiety, as well as their individual characteristics. For example, their self-efficacy, self-esteem, and their vulnerability to stress are mediated by internet use and dysfunctional coping mechanisms. So what does this all mean? Our use of social media, especially in finding love on dating apps, is in turn making us a more lonely and low self-worth set of people. It teaches us the wrong way to find and accept love, so that in turn, when our reality and love relationships cannot be available to us 24/7 as our phones can, we see it as a reason to lessen our worth. I have a friend who constantly posts on social media. She wants pictures everywhere and she wants to post them, and she's constantly asking me if they're good and checking her likes and her comments. And I love her to death, but I constantly try to remind her that a filter on social media or a comment on social media doesn't really mean much. These people may follow you and you may follow them, but are they your friends in real life? Do they know who you are? Are they there when you're lonely? Are they helping you make decisions to help your future? No. But we become these people that care about what strangers on the internet think. This is all a vicious cycle, with our emotions and self-worth at the hand of it all.